So in this video, I'm gonna talk about tipping, gratuities, handing money to your stylist. What should we do? How much should we give?
Take a breath and let it go. We don't have no place to go yet. Just sit back, enjoy the ride for you and now I'm on some time. I know you said your heart is torn. Embrace that calm before the storm. The tide is up when we are down, but I can get us out somehow. Like that flood in 25. We barely...
So let me just start by saying the whole tipping thing for me is, when I first moved to this country, it was a weird concept to actually hand money to someone that performed a service on you. Being Australian, it's not in our culture in Australia to actually tip. So when I first arrived here, it took me, I'll never forget the first time I went out for dinner. I landed in LA and I went out for dinner that night and I was by myself. And I knew I had to tip, but I didn't know how much. So I over tipped, I'm sure. After dinner, I filled it all out, and I handed this, I handed this waitress, a tip, a significant tip. I think it was $20, and she walked off. And I was waiting for this big response. It was weird. I was waiting for this big thank you, or I don't know what I was expecting, but I thought that I would get this great, oh, that's great. But no, she just walked off. It was weird. It was just my first time I handed a tip to someone. Wasn't the experience that I thought it was going to be. But obviously after living here for a while, I come accustomed to it and then realized what it actually means. The word tip or tips actually stands for to ensure proper service. And it originated back in the old days where when the gangsters would walk in, or they would hand someone some money to get them to the front of the club or the front of the line, or they would hand it before the meal and say, here's money, please look after me. So the tip actually started before you even had the service. So over the years, it's sort of changed, and now you get tipped after the service. So learning more about it was interesting to me, and the way it's expected. Out here, people just assume that they should receive a tip, but in fact, it's up to the individual person. When I opened a salon, I wanted to go back to not accepting tips. One, for being the owner. I don't believe in a salon you should ever tip the owner, but that's just me. That's not everyone, it's just my opinion. So when I first started, I stopped accepting tips. I said, and it's funny, the culture out here had a bit of a problem with that. They were like, no, we insist, we want to, and I was like, no, it's okay. I raised my prices, I set my prices where, I thought they should be, and I would stop receiving tips, which seemed to work for me. So technically, what I say in my salon, we are a non-tipping salon, but if they want to tip the stylist, that's between them and the stylist. And my stylists do get tips. Now, understanding it a bit more, over the years I've been here, the percentage is an interesting, how much do I tip, so breaking it all down, I think customary in this country is 15 to 20%. When I go out for dinner, now you pay on these little machines and it automatically goes to 20%, but it's somewhere in the middle there. But it's always after the meal, and it's never on the service. It's more on what I thought of the meal, which doesn't make sense because the person bringing the meal to me isn't the one cooking it. So that was stupid as well on my behalf, because I'm like, well, the meal was terrible. Service was great, but I'm not going to tip that much because the meal wasn't good. Had nothing to do with the person that brought it out. I don't think. I thought it was a chef that actually should be cooking it. Anyways, I'm sort of veering off. So, for example, in this salon, if the service is $100, an average tip is anywhere from $10 to $20, obviously. 10 being 10%, $20 being 20%. We do not have apprentices in this salon, so we do not have, you're not seeing 10 different people basically. You're seeing the one person, and the tip should be handed directly to that stylist, I believe. Again, this is just my opinion. Every salon does it differently, and I'm not knocking any other salon by no means. Now, the interesting question for me is, do you, as a client, when you tip, do you think the service is better or worse depending on the amount you tip? Right? So I was always under the impression that if I over tip someone, the next time I turned up, they would remember me and I would somewhat get a better service. But that's not the actual case 100% of the time, So now I've sort of understanding it a little bit more, obviously. And when I tip someone, when I go out and I have a service, or when I experience having to tip someone, I do rate it on the person bringing the meal, not so much on the food 100%, or, it's the person performing that service. I know I'm jumping around here a little bit, but there's a lot of information in my head that I want to get out to you guys. So when you go get a haircut, do you tip? I'm going to ask you guys a question. Do you tip? How much do you tip? What's customary in your mind? What, getting back to, should you tip before the service again, to get a better haircut? Or do you tip more hoping next time you come in that you will get a better service? As a hairdresser, the amount of money received on a tip never really changed the way I treated my clients. Now, I know that's not always the case. There are stylists out there, and I have seen it, that they will remember the person that does tip more. It's just in our brain, I think. It's just set human nature. We think, oh, I'm going to look after that person. But really, in my mind, I'm fortunate enough to have anyone sit in my chair, and that's why I went non-tipping, just to take it out of people's heads all completely, so the service does not change. But again, everyone's different, so there's just, I know I've rambled on, and I know it's going to be a long vlog today. But I just wanted to give that information, and I hope it helps. I really hope you guys get something out of it. I enjoy doing the vlogs, so yeah, let me know what you think about tipping and what you guys see, in regards to how much do you normally tip. It's an interesting subject, and no one really talks about it, It's sort of not spoken about. But anyways, so if you've made it to the very end of the video, I just want to say thank you for listening to me. I appreciate you making it all the way to the end. I just wanted to say a big congratulations to my mate, Andy Mullen. He finally became a US citizen. So good on you, mate. That's awesome. I'm not a citizen yet, but I'll get there one day, mate. I promise. But I think he's lived here for like 40 years and he's finally done it. So good on you, mate. That's great.